And sometimes the best deal you do is the one you don't do.
That's something we actually just recently experienced on this assisted living facility that we're buying. We were originally under contract for a different facility that was already up and running. We were just going to be acquiring the entire business and the real estate. And a lot of stuff started coming up in the due diligence phase close to the closing date that was not originally disclosed to us. And it was breaking the numbers for us. And it was actually we had to back out of it. And it was actually the first deal that we had to back out of in the 5 years. And it was a new experience for me communicating to our investors, this is our pivot. And it was really encouraging to hear from a lot of my investors. I mean, 100% of them rolled over their capital into this new pivot.
Welcome to the Generations of Wealth show. I'm your host, Derek Dombeck. Today, we've got, I think, a little bit different kind of guest. She's amazing. She is very heart-centered. She came from the nursing industry and is really passionate about helping other people in the medical profession get good, sound investments. And she's really built up a hell of a portfolio in the 5 years in business she's been in. Before I bring Savannah on, though, I kind of wanted to mention to you, if you're watching the video, you can see a couple of books that are always in my background, Next Level Your Life and The Transformational Journey, books that I was honored to be a part of as a co-author. And if you want those free, the digital versions free, just go to derekdombeck.com. You'll find a link there. You can download them yourself. And, the reason I'm thinking of this now is because there's so many awesome co-authors in those two books that are very similar to Savannah, our guest, where they just want to tell their story to help. So, anything else I can do to help you? Also, don't hesitate to reach out. But with that said, let's bring on our guest. And now, all the way from sunny Northern California, Savannah Arroyo, thank you so much for joining me on the Generations of Wealth show.
Yeah, I am stoked to be here.
Well, I typically do this with everybody. I'd like to just start out, you kind of tell the world about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then we're going to dive into your expertise.
Yes, absolutely. So I started my career as a nurse in 2013. Really went into that loving process improvement and operations and leadership. So really early on in my nursing career, I went back to school. I got my master's degree in nursing leadership and administration. And for a very, very long time, I had my eyes set on becoming a CNO, a chief nursing officer. And that was my biggest goal and what I was working towards. And it wasn't until 2020, after having my second daughter, that my priorities started shifting. I was looking at how much time I was spending at work versus my family, and I wanted a lot more freedom in my life, for more financial freedom. And it was a big eye opener to realize, having to go back from maternity leave when my babies were 3 months old, that I only had one source of income coming in, and that was that W-2. And I really wanted a different way out of the rat race. And so really took to YouTube and Google and podcasts and started researching passive income, financial freedom, best ways to build wealth. And real estate investing kept coming up again and again and again. And something I had no experience with at the time, but was very, very curious. And started looking into a few different strategies. Didn't have any money to start investing at the time, and it took talking to a really cool, savvy mortgage lender who told me that I had $100,000 worth of equity in my primary residence. And I was so novice to real estate investing, I didn't even know what equity was at the time or what I could do with it. And he listened to my goals and my dreams and was telling me that I could use that as a down payment for a couple of single family homes. And ended up doing that early on. And had a couple long-term rentals and turnovers that cost a lot of money and depleted a lot of my cash flow, and switched really quickly into multifamily real estate and especially syndications. I started working really closely with healthcare professionals who wanted to get involved with real estate investing, but didn't really want to be dealing with the tenants, toilets, and trash. And so the syndications and the opportunity to pool together resources, people coming into these investments completely passively, is our biggest focus right now.
So you started your first couple single family homes. What year was that?
Yeah, 2020.
Okay. And so COVID hits.
Yes.
Was this early 2020 or was this like in the midst of COVID or what was the timeline on the first
Yeah, in
one?
the midst of COVID, we bought, I think, three multifamily deals, apartment complexes in COVID. And yeah, very interesting coming in as a fairly novice real estate investor and having seen a lot of different market cycles. But I mean, being able to push through during COVID, it was very uncertain times. I mean, we were hearing different opinions from all over the place, whether or not to get started into it, whether to hold off and back off. And for us, it really came down to market analysis and looking at our numbers. And interest rates were so low at that time. And multifamily real estate being a very stable asset class, it was one of the first ones to bounce back after the 2008 housing crisis. We were just looking at alternative asset classes like retail and commercial, other commercial real estate, and just knowing that people needed a home regardless, was something that we felt very confident going in on that strategy. And we performed very, very well throughout COVID.
So was this all in your local market or are you expanding outside of Northern California?
Yeah, so outside of California, we were living in Los Angeles, California at the time. Now we're up north in Santa Rosa. But yeah, we ended up investing all of our multifamily complexes are up in Oregon, actually. And then we have a self-storage facility down in Arizona.
Okay, so you keep saying we. I can make some assumptions, but I'm probably just better to let you explain it. Who did you partner with or who's the we?
Yeah, so my husband for yeah, very a perfect pair really starting out into this because we were looking at our life and what type of lifestyle we wanted to live and looking at our 3-year plan and 5-year plan of where we wanted to be with our finances really showed us kind of step by step where we needed to be at 6 months a year. And so we worked together on all aspects of the business. We started building it together in 2020, and really went through a lot of those first few deals side by side, going through every aspect together. We were on the phone with brokers together, lenders, different legal teams, property management, and now we've divided the business after having ran it 5 years. So my husband does all the acquisitions and asset management. So he's out finding the deal. He has great relationships with brokers, getting the financing for the deal, and then managing the deal throughout the lifetime of the investment, which is most of the time dealing with property managers, overseeing huge renovations. Most of our deals are large value add opportunities. And then I do a lot of the investor relations, all the marketing, really the face of the business as I'm out talking to healthcare professionals about this alternative real estate investment.
That's what I was going to ask you. Coming from the healthcare world, um, you have a lot of people that you talk to every day, whether it's nurses, doctors, what have you, that have a challenge, especially I would assume doctors, right? They have fairly high W-2 income and no
Yes.
tax shelters, right?
Yeah,
So was
exactly.
that always your target as far as, raising money for syndications?
Yeah, it was. I hadn't really thought about it at first, but then it came really natural. As I started talking with others in the space and different coaches, it was really leaning into what was natural for me, and that was healthcare and talking to other nurses and doctors, and they really do have a huge interest to invest, and they want their money to be working hard for them. And honestly, it was so disheartening to see, especially throughout COVID coming to work every day, how many of the nurses and doctors and techs that I was working with that are living paycheck to paycheck and not knowing how to invest and thinking that their 401k and their retirement plan is the only way to build wealth. And it really became an educational opportunity, which is why I really set out to social media. That was my biggest focus as I started expanding my brand to really just start providing resources for healthcare professionals and opening the conversation about what is real estate investing? How can you passively invest? What are syndications? What does the risk and return look like? And so since then, I have my website, networthnurse.co, that has hundreds of blogs and videos and quick tips for people who are very, very new to real estate investing.
I think that's so awesome because most people would just be intimidated to do a couple single families and then say, we're going out to start doing large multi, and oh, by the way, we're going to start syndicating and raising money with, as you said, you're essentially novice, and we all start somewhere, and we all make plenty of mistakes. That's typically the best way to learn, but also can be the most expensive way to learn. Um, was there a fear factor there, or are you and your husband just kind of like, eh, it'll be fine?
No, definitely imposter syndrome for sure coming out into the space. I read a really amazing book, Raising Private Capital by Matt Faircloth. And in that book, he was talking about an investment that had kind of gone wrong and he lost some investors' money, and a way that he made himself right in the investment, or made his investors right. In a sense, and he was able to fix the investment so that his investors did come out whole. And that was a big light bulb moment for me of that there are ways to still shelter a lot of the risks, even for investors. Because for me, it was like I was getting friends and family involved, nurses and doctors that I worked with. Like I wanted to be sure that their money was in the best place, and that we were doing all our due diligence and research. And we do huge market analysis and spreadsheets and underwriting and due diligence before we go out and buy a deal. And so that has always been very, very important for me. But it was really leaning into what was natural and just being very authentic. So just hopping on a camera and sharing. I mean, I never acted like I had decades of experience, it was sharing really step by step where we're at, what we're learning, what we're doing, what we're working towards. And now we have three exits under our belt, and so we have a decent track record coming into this now. And we're expanding into assisted living facilities, which is a really cool asset class that we're learning a lot about. And again, very new for me, but I do have 10 years healthcare experience. I have a master's degree in healthcare administration. And so I am coming into these new asset classes with a lot of foundational knowledge.
Are you still an active nurse or not?
So I just retired this year. February 1st was my last day working. And yet that wrapped up a 10-year nursing career, most of it in administration, but I worked in a lot of different bedside roles as well. And yes, I finally left.
Well, congratulations. It's always
Thank
great to
you.
be unemployed. Um,
Yes.
so you're in the business 5 years. You've seen some shift over the last 5 years, but admittedly, you haven't been through a whole lot of ups and downs and cycles. What do you and your husband see for yourself, in your own business, but then also more on a global level with the asset class that you're in or looking at, from a risk versus growth potential? What are you guys projecting?
Yeah, we love multifamily. It has performed phenomenally, even in over the COVID pandemic when there was a lot of scare in the market and people aren't going to pay rent. We didn't experience a lot of that. I mean, we've dealt with evictions, we've dealt with mold, we've dealt with things gone wrong in renovations. We've experienced our fair share of setbacks for sure, but for us, it's always focusing on how to move through them. It does happen in all real estate transactions, whether you're going out on your own and buying a single family home, like things do not go as planned. That is a part of the business and something that we learned really early on. And so being able to pivot quickly has been very beneficial for us. Like I said, multifamily has been very resilient, even up in the Oregon market, where people have always put in our ear that it's more tenant friendly versus landlord friendly. We've never had issues with the evictions that we've had to do and certain things like that, collecting rent. Like I said, throughout COVID, we experience over 90% occupancy on all of our buildings up there. It's a very, very stable. We invest mostly in tertiary markets, so they're a little bit smaller, but really heavy working class people who need a place to live. They can't afford to buy a home, and so renters are big in those markets. And like I said, moving into assisted living facility, something that has always been mentioned to me in real estate as I've attended conferences and gone on podcasts over the last 5 years. And to be honest, we were very narrowed in on multifamily for so long. Like we wanted to be very focused on what we were doing for investors and get those exits under our belt. And so we're actually under contract to close August 11th on Monday for our first assisted living facility. We see huge, huge opportunity in this asset class, just the growing aging population. There's really no inventory for these assisted living facilities. There's a huge deficit across the country that we're seeing here. And a lot of the residents, is what they are called, are private pay. There's also ways to tap into government funding for this. I mean, here in Santa Rosa, where we're buying our 11-bedroom home that we're going to be converting into a 15-bed residential care facility for the elderly. It's an RCFE. The rents are $7,000 a month for a shared room in one of these places. And I just saw over again and again in healthcare. I mean, being as a nurse in my most recent role on an orthopedic floor, we were dealing with patients who fell at their home and they don't have family members to help with them, and it's unsafe for them to go back to their home, and they need help with laundry and medication administration and just preparing meals. I mean, really basic ADLs, activities of daily living. And so really cool opportunity to come in with my healthcare expertise of operations and administration. So we're going to be building the business from scratch. So I'm learning so much about licensing and zoning. We got a good architect on our team who's familiar with RCFEs, and really, really excited about this asset class.
Yeah, we actually had a show that everybody can go back and look up. It was Isabel Garino, who runs the RAL Academy, and her family, that's what they've done for years. Her late father started it, Gene Garino, and just a great episode. Just go back and search for Isabel Garino. But I've always loved the space, except I don't have the background that I'm passionate about it. And that was one of the things that she pointed out in that episode was if you're just going to do it for the money, you may not have the strength to stick it out. But with your background and the way she was brought up in it and her family, like it fits a certain parameter, and I think you'll absolutely rock it. I mean, I have no doubt just based off what you've done in 5 years. Um, you don't have to share if you don't want to, but if you are willing, where is your portfolio at after a short 5 years?
Yeah, so we have close to 100 units. All of our buildings have been fairly on the smaller started. We started with a 12 unit, 24, 18, 36. We have another 27 unit. They're all up in Oregon in different markets up there. But like I said, we have the three exits under our belt. But all of them exited within the last year and a half. All of them exited early. All of them exited with, we surpassed our original projections for investors. So we got 24% average annualized returns on all of those deals, which is we got happy investors when the stock market consistently performs around that 6% mark, right? 24% is pretty
Mhm.
good. And so, yeah, we were able to exit early on a lot of them. And so the investors wanted to roll them over into new investments, which is great for us and our growth as well. But yeah, it's been really, really fun working through a lot of it and seeing the different market trends and what that's done for our exits with the interest rates high right now. Some of them had sat on the market a little bit longer than we originally anticipated, but we were still able to get really great returns just by the value add that we're doing in our deals. We're buying buildings that just the owners don't want to own anymore, and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of deferred maintenance that they don't have the money for. And so we're able as investors to come in, see these deals, raise the money from our group, and able to take care of these and in a sense flip the apartment complexes over like a 3 to 5 year period.
Yeah, and to go to 100 doors, given being a full-time nurse, COVID, all the things like that was kind of the point I wanted to make. Because there's plenty of people out there that listening to this show, and of course those that don't, and should listen to the show, but those that don't, it's intimidating, right? I mean, I know people have been in this business 20 years that, just like me, that they are still scared to death of getting into syndications or, larger complex type scenarios. At the end of the day, real estate is real estate. If it's $100,000, $1 million, or $10 million, um, there is due diligence and yes, there's some differences, but it's still real estate. And that's where I love what you've done in the short amount of time. Now, we don't give legal advice here, and you are not going to give legal advice, but I would like to talk about your syndication structure. Um, so anybody listening to it, go talk to an attorney if you want to do your own syndication. I've done, several funds over the years, and primarily those were for the hard money lending space. But did you did you use bank debt for the majority of the purchase and then raise 20, 30%, or what did it look like?
Yeah, so we've done financing, bank debt on all of our deals. We've done a couple seller financing. We've done agency debt. So we have two Freddie Mac loans, which is a really fun experience to walk through. The thoroughness that they vet out those deals with is very reassuring for investors. I always tell them, but yeah, we primarily secure the bank financing, and then we raise capital for investors for the down payment and any of the repairs and renovations. We do all of our deals as a 506B filing, meaning that they're open to unaccredited investors. We do have the majority of nurses are unaccredited, and that's really the main reason I'm doing all this. And so, very important that they get the opportunity to jump in these deals. So we do the 506B filings. Most of our deals are an 80/20 split with investors. We don't do a pref return, so meaning that all the income that comes in our building, once the expenses get paid, it's then split amongst all our investors, our entire team, based on what percentage they own of the deal, and that is dependent on how much money they're investing. So all of our investors, usual investments around $50,000. That's our minimum. And that earns them a percentage of the LLC. So very empowering to tell healthcare professionals, you guys own a piece of this building, and then their returns are a direct reflection of that percentage.
And then they're also able to take their percentage of depreciation in the
Yep.
transaction. Yep.
Yeah, we do full depreciation cost segregation studies on all of our buildings. Tax benefits, like you mentioned in real estate at the beginning of the show, are phenomenal. Something you definitely want to tap into. Even if you're not a real estate professional, there's still ways that it's offsetting the income that that specific investment is bringing in. And so, yes, tax strategy is forefront for all of our investments.
And to be clear, the 506B, again, Savannah and I are not giving anyone legal advice, but that is essentially kind of like a friends and family fund. You have to have a relationship with those people. You can't advertise, you can't put stuff on social media saying, "Hey, we're trying to raise money for this apartment complex." That will get you in naughty timeout with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And that's putting it
Yes. Yeah.
nicely.
And that's never deferred me because I like having that relationship with my investors. I'm hopping on a call with them early on to get a feel for their investment experience and what would be the best opportunities for them. And so having that conversation, that a relationship initiated is very important for us.
Absolutely. And I've had different types of funds. So, we've had the same thing, 506B, 506Cs. And it just depends what you're trying to accomplish. But what I love about what you said earlier is you took the time and you're very heart-centered when it comes to protecting your investors, making sure that there is, you can't ever legally guarantee anything to an investor, but if you have the right morals and ethics and you know you will fall on the sword, no matter what, to protect your investors, there are going to be challenges. It doesn't matter how long you're in this business, eventually you will have a deal that doesn't go the way you thought it was going to. And if you take care of your investors, even in those bad deals, a good majority of them will stick it out with you and be there for your next deal.
Yeah, that's something we actually just recently experienced on this assisted living facility that we're buying. We were originally under contract for a different facility that was already up and running. We were just going to be acquiring the entire business and the real estate, and a lot of stuff started coming up in the due diligence phase close to the closing date that was not originally disclosed to us, and it was breaking the numbers for us, and it was actually we had to back out of it, and it was actually the first deal that we had to back out of in the 5 years. Able to recoup our earnest money deposit, but lost some money in risk capital. And it was a new experience for me communicating to our investors, this is our pivot. And it was really encouraging to hear from a lot of my investors. I mean, 100% of them rolled over their capital into this new pivot. But it was very reassuring to hear from them how comforting they felt knowing that we had the ability and diligence to actually back out, even though it wasn't going to be a right fit. And quite a few of them were acknowledging, that must have been hard. And it was something we hadn't done before. And the unknown of like, oh man, how are we going to tell investors this is going to make us look bad? And, all those thoughts that come in your head. But like you said, I mean, putting our investors first and foremost in our deals is really what has attributed to so much of our success.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the best deal you do is the one you don't do.
Yeah, that's how I felt walking away from this one for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
So where's your passions lie moving forward? I mean, I'm making the assumption healthcare was really something that um, drove you and kind of gave you that reason to get out of bed every morning. What is it now that you're retired?
Yeah, it's interesting how quickly the assisted living facilities have filled that space. We went under contract for this one. I mean, not even a month after I retired from my nursing job, and I mean, it just really goes to show that I do have such a big passion for caregiving and providing the support for people who aren't able to provide that for themselves and have the resources to do it. And so being able to move into this asset class is becoming it's very fulfilling for me. I love the not only the operational aspects that go into healthcare, which was something that even my husband was a little apprehensive of early on, being responsible for people's lives, having potential deaths at our facility because we will be dealing with hospice care patients and medication management. And I think some things that may defer real estate investors is something that is second nature for me. And not only that, but something like that I am very passionate about. And so being able to move from what I was doing in my nursing career into combining real estate investing and this healthcare piece in the assisted living facilities is really, really fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it right now.
What was your husband's background?
Yeah, he was in insurance. So he was doing that for 10 years down in LA, a lot of spreadsheet number type stuff. So all of the accounting piece, he lives in front of Excel for all of his underwriting and accounting and that type of stuff. And so that piece was a fairly smooth transition. But yeah, he was able to walk away from his W-2 almost 3 years ago now. He got out a little bit earlier than me. But yeah, we're both doing this full time now.
So this one is going to be probably something that nobody else would maybe ask you in a show, but what's the challenges working with your husband in a business
Oh,
as the wife?
yes, yeah. I could write a whole book about this. Definitely early on learning to stay in our lanes. I because we were working through so much of the business together, and we still are. I mean, our desks are right next to each other in the office, and we're touching base every single day. And there still are phone calls that we take together very, very regularly. But to stay in my lane, giving him the ability to work through what he's working through without that controlling aspect of things or checking in to see where things are. We've learned that for each other, right? Over the years, that has probably been the biggest one. Just giving each other the space to do your work.
How do you shut it off? Like it's time for family time with the kids. How do you
Yeah.
shut it off?
I know. So we've done a lot better of this. We've started kind of our daughters are 5 and 7. I'm actually 8.5 months pregnant right now.
Oh,
We're
wow.
having our third
Congratulations.
baby in a few short weeks next month. But we've become very aware of screen time, and so that's something we turn off from like 5 to 9 p.m. at night while we're with our daughters. Social media was huge for me because I was on it so much in the beginning years of building my business and net worth nurse. And now I've brought in a virtual assistant in the Philippines who I've been working with for 2.5 years. She helps me create all my content. She does all my posting. I've actually set as a goal for 2025 to delete social media apps from my phone and not go on it. And so I haven't had social media apps on my phone for close to 8 months now, which is a huge, huge win for me. I felt like it was deterring so much from my time with my girls just being on my phone. I absolutely hated it. And so being off social media for so many months has been really, really empowering. But yeah, I mean, it's so fun doing with my husband because there are times where we'll be hanging out in the backyard and just like, oh, did you like that's interesting. We'll bring up different things that we're working on and just kind of have the light conversation about it. And there are times where if one of us isn't in the headspace to be talking about it, we have to table it until tomorrow type thing. And we've gotten really good at just being able to voice where we're at with certain things and our ability to contribute at different times. And I mean, because one of us could be on, and the other one, needing to have some time before we dive into a specific topic. But yeah, it's an ebb and flow that we work through. But shutting off screen time has been really, really helpful just for our family time.
So what's your advice to other, couples that are trying to run a business together?
Yeah, breathe for sure. I mean, meditation and yoga are huge practices for me that bring me, I mean, self-care, even running a family while doing all of this, because it is such a balance. Like taking care of myself has been a huge, huge priority over the last 5 years. I mean, stopped drinking alcohol completely 5 years ago. Like I said, meditation, yoga, removing social media apps. Like we're just constantly trying to be the best versions of ourselves. And that really overflows into our business and how we run things and our ability to show up.
Well, that's amazing. Again, I don't think enough people talk about that topic, and I've been through it myself, and there are it's never what it appears from the outside looking in. I will put it that way without going into a whole lot of details, right? There is another level for entrepreneurs that try to run a business as a couple. Um, and that's really what the generations of wealth is always all about too, right? It's having a vision for your life, your personal life, and building a business that supports that and not the other way around. And as long as you can keep that vision clear, which it sounds like you guys are doing a great job of, that's awesome. So I will wrap it up with my favorite question. What is one question I should have asked you that I did not?
Oh man. Maybe my favorite way to connect with people, and that might have been coming even later. But I do love connecting with other healthcare professionals. If you're interested in real estate investing or learning about this stuff and how, I mean, I help a lot of healthcare professionals invest through their IRA accounts, which has been huge wins for the healthcare community and my investors that I'm working with. But yeah, I mean, if you're listening to any of this stuff and it's interesting to you, book a call. Like I would love to chat.
Awesome. Well, we will have links to everything in the show and appreciate your time and you just sharing your story and inspiring, I think, everybody really from the heart-centered nature of helping people, whether it's nursing or assisted living or just giving people a good, safe place to live in the apartment complexes. So, thank you.
Yes, love it. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Well, for everybody else, that's a wrap on another awesome show with another awesome guest. And until the next time, go out there, live your vision, and love your life. See ya.